It's time for Twig This Week at Google, episode 57. We've got an actual Googler in the house. Chris DiBona is here. He'll talk about what's happening with Android, the Google Verizon announcement, and a whole lot more. This Week in Google, coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by Cachefly, Cachefly.com. This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 57, recorded August 25th, 2010. Where are my Funyuns? This Week in Google is brought to you by Carbonite.com. Backing up the files on your PC or Mac is safe and easy with Carbonite. For a free trial plus 2 free months with purchase, go to Carbonite.com. Offer code TWIG. It's time for Twig This Week in Google, the show that covers the Googleverse and the cloud. Joining us as always from her cloud chamber in beautiful San Diego, California, Miss Gina Trapani.
Hello, Earthlings.
Via Trapani, Sicilia. Good to have you, Gina. Jeff Jarvis has the week off. We've got a great substitute in studio in Google, in fact. He's inside the Googleplex, Mr. King, looking around for the black helicopters, Mr. Chris DiBona.
Actually, my name's Jeff Jarvis.
Open source program manager. He does have the goatee, so I think we're okay for Google. It's nice to have you, Chris. Chris was the host for a long time of Floss Weekly. And I've known Chris for years pre-Google. He did open source and Linux stuff for us on the screensavers many years ago.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
How long have you been at Google now, though? It's a long time.
Yeah, I've been at Google for 6 years now.
When do you stop being a noogler?
You technically stop being a noogler when your noogler balloon deflates. It's one of those Mylar balloons, so it takes a while. So that's
a good way to do it.
Timeline.
We got to start doing that, Lisa. Can we give Mylar balloons to what we would call twoobies?
Twiddlers? New twits?
And then as your balloon sags, then you gain in status as your balloon goes down.
Yeah.
So it's great to have you both. Lots to talk about. Google had an announcement today. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Adding voice to Gmail. That could be potentially huge.
It's very exciting.
Is there anything exciting going on in your neck of the woods, open source and public sector manager, Mr.
Oh, boy.
DiBona?
Well, I took on this new group in D.C. doing sort of government-y focused things, and it's all very exciting, like our polling locations API. Yes. And so, if you're finding voting locations, if you put in your address,
cool.
You find out where you can vote and stuff. And then we also handle what's called Google Moderator, which was used by the president for Open for Questions.
I keep saying I got to do more of that. I think that moderator has a huge potential for us.
It could be really neat, know. I mean, because I can barely keep up with the chat. I mean, it's like, it's like screaming by, Yeah. So, I already apologize for not being able to do that.
Well, it's all a tools issue. We're going to talk about tools in just a second. We're doing, and I'd love you to come. Tim O'Reilly has been big on Government 2.0, transparency, using tools to make government more effective. He's written books on it. And we are actually doing a special Friday on this at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern at live.twit.tv. If you'd like to tune in.
This Friday?
This Friday. And if you'd like to come by, we have a lot of guests. It's going to be very interesting, but I'd love to have you come on and talk about what you guys are doing. Gina's also working with government.
Yes.
Yeah, well, actually, Chris has to do with Google Summer of Code, which is Google's program that gets university students involved in open source projects, which Expert Labs, which is where I work, is.
Oh, that's right, you're an expert now.
Yeah, it's for we're a mentoring organization. So we had 2 students over the summer working on the project, which is Think Up. Used to be Think Tank. It is now called Think Up, which is an open source project.
Good name, like the new name. That's great.
Thank you. It's Firebird to Firefox kind of moment.
Was that a user suggested name? Think Up.
It was a name that was suggested actually ideas were gathered by the app. It was suggested on Twitter, and the app picked it up, and we was like, yeah, Think Up. That works.
That's cool.
Well, we were glad to have you both today. I guess we'll get to the Google Voice on Gmail in just a second, but before we do that, I suppose I should mention the Buzz thing, my Buzzkill post.
Yeah, now that got a lot of traction here inside the company too.
Oh God, that makes me feel really bad.
No, it was.
Let me tell you what happened, and then we could talk about my epiphany. And Gina wants to talk me down. So And I saved it. You know, we were.
So wait, she's the angel on your shoulder, and I'm the devil.
I should get right in the middle because you really look kind of like the angel.
I need a halo, and Chris needs horns. There you go.
You're both on my left shoulder, but I think we'll figure it out. The genesis of this was August 6th. I was on the road. We were taking Abby to college, and but you know, I love Buzz. You know, I'm a Buzz fan. I'm a huge fan. In fact, from day one. Even in the face of the privacy issues that came up and kind of the lack of uptake, I've wanted Buzz to succeed because I miss threaded conversations on Twitter. I think Buzz could be so much better. So what happened was August 6th I was on the road, and when I'm on the road I always use the Buzz widget on my Android phone to post pictures and little things. And I'm posting along. Get to August 22nd, which was a couple of days ago, and I'm seeing all this stuff when I go to my name, but I'm not seeing it in the public timeline. I'm thinking that's kind of odd. And what the biggest thing that should have been a real red flag was I wasn't getting much any engagement. A little bit. That's why it was hard to detect. There were one or two comments, but there were no likes and there were very few comments. And usually my stuff gets more than that. So I started investigating, and I realized, wait a minute, Buzz can tweet, which has been very reliable, is not porting stuff over to Twitter. So none of that got into Twitter, including show announcements from all of last week. Because I usually start a show by announcing it on Buzz, which then ports to Twitter through Buzz can tweet. So I was suddenly realized, well, there's something wrong here. And as I looked into it, I realized not only is there something wrong, but I can't ask for help because nobody's seeing my buzzes. So I managed to get the attention of Clinton, DeWitt Clinton, and later Adewale out of London. And 3 days later, they said, "Yeah, you found a bug." They said it's a very rare bug that would only affect somebody with a lot of followers. But the bug was that when somebody deleted their Google account, anyone who's following me deleted their Google account, suddenly I would stop being visible. It's like they deleted me, and they've. Weird. It's a weird bug. It must have been difficult to track down. We did a lot of test postings and stuff, and I apologize, but they did finally figure it out. And a couple of days ago, all of my buzzes went on Twitter, causing a little annoyance, I must say, from my followers on Twitter. And it seems to be all okay. So
no one deletes their Google account, and no one has as many followers as you, Leo. These are the two things that I take from this.
Yeah, I don't. They said it was a long-standing bug. It's the kind of thing, that creeps into code and you wouldn't see because it's a weird confluence of situations that happen. Anyway, that's not important. That got fixed. I'm fine.
So the part about your post that I thought was really interesting was sort of the part that dwelled on the ephemeral nature of a lot of these things and how you felt like you were, in the end, narcissistically speaking into the wind. Right?
Yes, I think I called myself a chatterbox onan. Spewing my little words into the wind. By the way, I wrote that at 1 a.m. in a kind of a tizzy, but it was kind of an epiphany for me because I said not only did no one say anything, but I didn't even notice. So it was almost 3 weeks of content that I was spewing that nobody saw and nobody noticed. Now, admittedly, that's a little narcissistic to assume that, people are going to say, "Oh, where's your wonderful stuff?" That's not kind of what I was saying. I just felt like, I really get the feeling that Twitter and to a lesser degree, but somewhat Buzz and even Facebook are just everybody talking at once and nobody listening. Mm-hmm. So what I said is, well, maybe I've misused these tools. Maybe what I should be doing is posting stuff that I want to be more than ephemera, which can even be trivia like pictures from my trip that I take with my camera phone, on my blog first, then have them publish upstream to the comments. Because what I think you need two things. You need the and we've talked about this, Gina, with Jeff many times before. You need the permanence of something you own so you control the content. It's yours. It's in a place where you know where it is. But you also don't want to force people to come to you to consume it, or more importantly, to engage with it. So you also want to participate in the commons. So you want something that goes in both places. And actually, Buzz turns out to be a perfect platform for that. But in order to do that, you have to do the one thing that everybody condemned me for. They said, "But Leo, that's because you were just using Buzz as a megaphone. You were just broadcasting." And in fact, the lesson I learned is, you should just broadcast. That's the right way to use it. No, but I mean, I would engage with other people's posts, or maybe even with my own posts. What do you think?
I mean, I feel like social media is about conversations, right? It's about conversations with your friends. Like you could say the conversations were, you know, they're ephemeral, they go away. But I think that it has to be, there's a happy medium. I think there's like broadcasting stuff that you've done. Hey, here's this thing that I've done, and it's in my database here, and you have to come here to look at it. And also like, hey, how was your day? What do you think about this? Like I use Twitter, primarily Twitter, but other places to just kind of like post kind of seeds of ideas and see what kind of reaction or response I get back, and then grow that into a larger piece of content that might go onto my blog. But I do very much feel the same way that and we've talked about this about you know, putting content into a place that you own, a data store that you own. That's why I like hosting my own blog, and that's why I built ThinkUp, because I like the idea that the idea that I can't find all of my tweets via the API on Twitter freaks me out. You know, it's been, you know, this place where I've been pumping content for a long time, and I want to have that database on my side. So I built ThinkUp to kind of archive my tweets and Flickr photos and buzzes and you know, all kind of inputs into these different networks.
Don't you think Twitter's really rotten for conversation, though? I mean, it really wasn't designed for conversation. It was designed to be a megaphone. Let's face it.
No,
you're
certainly.
right.
I mean,
yeah, that's true. That's true. And Buzz is definitely much.
And that's why I like Buzz.
Right. Right.
well, you know, I mean, so Buzz is actually quite good at the conversations, but people, I think, love Twitter for the megaphone aspect. They get to say what they think, darn it, and the whole world is listening, or not. But,
Or not.
You know, but they're saying it, you know. And I mean, honestly, I'm not going to lie to you. That's why I actually really liked Twitter when it came out, and why I use it.
Well, there's a second reason is it's very easy.
Right.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
very easy.
It's easy to get. It's easy to use. Buzz is a little more, and anything that has Jaiku, which I prefer over Twitter as well, which I think kind of was kind of the acorn that the oak tree of Buzz came out of. Really, I liked it because it was threaded conversations. There was much more engagement, and the engagement was tied to the original post. But people don't like these systems. Buzz, let's face it, Chris, Buzz has not received much uptake. It's a lot smaller than Twitter.
I honestly don't know the numbers. I'd imagine it's smaller than Twitter, though. You know.
Well, I could tell you it's smaller. It's obvious. You know, if I post a link on Buzz and I post a link on Twitter, 90% of the engagement comes from Twitter. Of course, I have 222,000 followers on Twitter and only 18,000 on. Well, but I think that's maybe the order of magnitude for everybody, except Lady Gaga. Does Lady Gaga have a Buzz account?
I don't know. I think Miley Cyrus does.
That's right, and uses it.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought she like swore off social media and said it was like a waste of life. That's interesting.
She snuck back on Buzz.
She did. She snuck back. You know, the problem with Buzz,
back into the public eye. That's what she's doing.
the issue with Buzz for me, and I had the same kind of experience with Google Reader, is like I just like, oh God, it's like another inbox that I have to go through.
Yes.
And Twitter just feels this, you know, very free and short and brief, and it gives me that sense of sort of like ambient intimacy with folks who I don't talk to every day. I follow Chris on Twitter, and I feel like, you know, I have some sense of what's going on with him, even though we don't talk, but without requiring me to, you know, mark items as read or like or comment or click on links. Like it's just 140 characters and that's it. And if there's a link, you know, tweets that have links in them kind of bug me after a while because I'm like, I don't want to have to launch this and do another browser. I just want to know, you know, a little tidbit about your life.
It's one more
right
tab
here
of
now.
oppression.
Yeah, I think it's an inbox issue for me. You know, just having all those unread items. Oh, I don't need any more unread items.
I don't feel any responsibility to hit next page on that front page of people I follow. I admit it.
I do.
But I do look
do.
at DiBona, you know.
I like to read right all the way down.
That's impossible. How many people are you following?
On Twitter, about 1,500. On Buzz, about 120.
You can't follow 1,500 people. You know, I mean, you'll see the first couple of pages and they'll say older tweets are not available, and you know. You can go a few pages back though. Yeah. I mean, actually, with 1,500 people, you can go more pages back because you have more content to follow. I guess it does seem like this is I guess the bottom line for me. We all are putting a lot of energy into these social media networks, and I wonder how much listening there is versus how much talking. And it struck me there was I'm by the way, if you read between the lines, I'm blaming myself. As much as I'm not, this is not an accusatory of either the tools or the people who use them. It's myself. There's a lot more talking than listening. Well, I mean, I hate to say it, Leo. People tune into you because they want to hear what you have to say. You know, less so for Gina, and even less so for me, right? I mean, your use of these tools is going to have more of a, you know, an outward effect than.
Well, so tell me what it looks like
very popular.
What does it look like from your end? You use this?
I don't think it looks any different, and that's very deceptive, right? So I follow about 300 people, and so I can kind of keep up with them when I have a few minutes to surf Twitter, right? And I don't get as many direct messages as you do. I don't get as many ads as you do. So that's where the analogy falls apart. But I use it because I want to drive people to one website or another, or something or another, or I just want to like yammer, right? And I'm yammering into the wind, and I'm hoping people like me or whatever. And
it is a little bit. Well, we said this before, Gina. It's high school, isn't it? It's really a little high school.
It is.
Except for I skipped a lot of high school. So,
but we all it's all our little cliques. And we just want people to like us.
It's a competition for the cleverest quips. I mean, let's be honest.
Well, that seems awfully
narcissistic.
Yeah.
It is. As a writer, it's a really good way to get your lead down, though.
It's true. Your lead is everything. 140 characters. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good way to get your lead down and to tweak it when people say, hey, that's, what about this? Or that's not right. Or you didn't get this right.
I think that the irony is, while people always are paying lip service to engagement and participation, it is a megaphone, ultimately.
Yes, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. So to me, this is really...
feel bad about that, Leo.
It really devolves down to what this mostly always does devolve down to is tool talk. It's about the tools and using the tools appropriately, understanding what the parameters of the tools are, maybe not having false expectations that Twitter, for instance, is a conversational medium.
Someone in the chat room said Twitter's a cocktail party, and it's actually a pretty good analogy.
But it's a cocktail party where everybody's talking and nobody's listening,
and everyone's like 3 drinks into it, and you hear your name out of the corner of your ear, and you go, "Oh, they're talking about me over there. I'm going to go talk to those people." Or, it's a cocktail party. It's a good analogy.
Well, I never liked cocktail parties either.
And there's that drunk in the corner just saying crazy stuff.
That's Randall Schwartz. Just ignore him.
I think though. I mean, Leo, do you engage with folks on Twitter? Do you respond to people on Twitter? Do you reply folks?
I do.
And you do it on Buzz as well. But you do engage. I mean, you can have conversations go back and forth. It's not as easy.
Here's a great quote from Kara Fisher. Hermes in our chat room says, Kara Swisher says, Twitter is like a library with all the books on the floor. I guess that's my frustration. So, and I'm going to actually, in my tools, tools segment at the end of the show, I am going to talk about at least a preliminary set of tools that I want to use that will let me use the blog as the primary publishing point. And Kevin Marks said this in a comment to me after while all this was happening. By the way, I just want to point out that blog post got well over 2,000 comments on my blog via Twitter, Buzz, Facebook, all the other social media being piped in using something called JSKit Echo, which is going to be one of the things I'm going to talk about. If you have the right tools in PubSub, Hubbub, and Salmon, and all of these APIs that are being developed, in fact, it might be possible to have the best of both worlds, a permanent record and an engaged commons. Anyway, I'll talk about what I use.
So the only thing I would say is if the tool you're going to talk about is Wave, I've got some bad news.
Don't make Gina cry again. It's not nice. You are so mean, Chris DiBona.
I know. It's so sad.
Moving on. Item 2. Big announcement this morning. Item 2.
Turning the page. What does that guy say?
Page 2. He's passed away, by the way.
Yeah.
Page 2. Hello, Americans. Item 2.
And it turns into a commercial. He doesn't tell you
it's always page 2 is always a commercial. Yeah. Google rolling out only in the U.S. I'm sorry, I should always say this because we have a huge international audience. At least 30% of the show is outside the U.S., which means a third of you won't be able to use this. It is U.S. only because it's Google. I guess it's Google Voice based. Free VoIP calls to and from Gmail. How does that work, Gina? Have you been able to use it yet?
I haven't been able to use it yet. It's not in my account yet. It's rolling out in the next few days. But from what I understand, that it uses Google's chat or Gmail's chat feature, right? So you can do voice calls. So you have to install the plugin for Google Voice Chat and Video Chat, and you have your headset on. You're sitting at your computer, and you can dial a phone from your computer, and it's basically Skype out, but for free inside the U.S.
And you can call phones.
You can call landline phones, yes, cell phones, regular phones.
Free?
Free in the US, Canada, till the end of the year, and cheap internationally. So I'm not sure what's going to happen they said till at least the end of the year. So I'm not sure what happens after that. But for now, free, yes.
Wow.
and it's connected to your Google Voice account. So if you have a Google Voice number, that's the number that will show up in the caller ID to other calls, and you can actually receive calls through Gmail to your Google Voice number. So right now, with Google Voice, you can set it to ring your different phones. You can now set it, when this is enabled, you have it in your account, you can now set it to ring Gmail chat. So if you're at your computer, you can receive a call as well as make one.
So this is the little video that Google prepared. 1876, telephone. 2008, Gmail. There was a caveman segment a little earlier that we missed. Chris, is there a whole department at Google doing this?
I think there must be.
They're doing more and more great, I'm not complaining, great videos around this.
Well, in some ways, the comic book was like the forerunner.
That's
for
right.
a lot of this.
Yeah.
The Chrome
people are like,
comic.
well, we could do anything. We did this crazy comic.
Yeah, I love that Chrome comic. By the way, I have that's a collector's item now, right? I saved mine.
Imagine. Do you have the Japanese one?
No.
Oh.
So our Japanese office did a second one, a follow-on, and they translated the first one into Japanese.
Oh, that's so neat.
It's really cool.
I'm so jealous. So this is now it's interesting because Gina, you mentioned a couple of weeks ago that you no longer had to do that third-party system where you enter a number and then Google Voice calls you. It makes sense now in light of this. So this is a direct call, right? You just press a button and it makes the call.
Yeah, this is a direct call. It's the way the Google Voice app works, on your phone. You just dial a number and it calls, which is you enter your number and then it calls you back. You enter your number in the web interface, then it calls you back. That whole thing was, you'd have to do that like on the iPhone, for example, because the Google Voice app isn't there. So yeah, this is just calling a number straight from your computer, and it's interesting. I have a few thoughts on this. I mean, the first obvious one is like, wow, this is this is a big competition for Skype and Skype out. The second one is like, I didn't have the plugin installed for Gmail, voice, and video chat. I didn't use it. Honestly, I went to Skype. If I needed to do video chat, I went to Skype. But this made me say, okay, I'm going to install this because this is pretty cool.
That's who this is bad for, is Skype.
Yeah, this is bad for Skype. And I wonder, can you imagine doing Twig on Gmail?
You want to try it next week? Should we try it next week?
It could be interesting. Yeah, we should try it. I haven't done too much video chatting with Gmail, but
Let's do it next week.
It's gonna give people a reason to install that plugin and really dive into chat for people who did dive into chat.
Okay, Chris. So why does Google do this?
Which part? The plugin?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, here's my understanding. Here's our understanding, I think, of Google. Google's always said it. The more you use the internet, the happier we are, the more money we make.
Yes.
And I understand that. More web pages means more ads. Are they going to put ads in this? Where's the upside to Google on doing phones?
I think it's one of those things that I think it's part of making a whole experience out of Gmail and Gmail's contact manager and Google Voice and sort of bringing the whole thing together like the Rug and Lebowski, right? It's like
it really brought the room together, man.
They brought the room together, and I think it's one of those services that kind of pays for itself because we give you a $10 credit in Google Voice or whatever when you get started, but you end up using it on international calls, I guess, and honestly, I don't know.
Gina, you were about to make another point, and I cut into you. I'm sorry.
I mean, the thing that worries me is I love Gmail, right? As far as I'm concerned, like beyond search, Gmail is Google's best product, and it worries me a little bit that they Google keeps rolling things into Gmail, like tasks and chat and video and voice and buzz and your contacts. I mean, in a way, it's like there's a really good argument, and the strategy is clear. It's like you have all these different features and products and acquisitions, and you want to sew them together to make that complete experience. At the same time, sometimes I get a little worried, like, wow, Gmail has a lot of different settings and capabilities, and it's just becoming this, it seems like if Google wants to launch a new product, they do it in Gmail because you have 160 million users instantly.
And this makes a lot of down. You're hanging a lot of bags off the side of this Gmail engine.
Yeah, I mean, Gmail isn't Gmail anymore. It's like communicate.
Amazing.
Yeah, many methods. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's funny. Actually, I'm with Gina. I get kind of worried whenever we try to do that whole sort of, let's throw this thing into Gmail and then see if it works out. And it's like, well, that's because you could say, well, if we had done that with Wave, would that have helped Wave out? Well, probably. Would it have slowed down Gmail? Well, I think every time you add something to Gmail, you slow it down.
You don't want to put Wave in Gmail. That would have been a mistake in hindsight. Now, this is a conversation that we had a couple of weeks ago. You weren't here, Chris, so this is a good time for you to kind of respond to this. One of the things it seemed to us that going forward, you don't need more programmers, you need more social scientists. It's no longer a programming issue, it's more a user issue, a user interface issue.
Sure.
No?
No. So I don't know what a social scientist is in this context.
Somebody who can look at how
Someone
a
who can
human
get upset when something slows down. I mean, we have lots of people like that here.
No, I know. No, human factors. Somebody who's an expert on human factors as opposed to machine factors.
You're probably right. It's
is there any attention being paid to that at all at Google?
Oh no. That's why I do think that there is. I personally, I have to admit that there are times when I just feel like shutting everything off in Gmail that might slow it down. Well,
you could use the HTML Gmail, right? The Gmail, basic Gmail.
Yeah, you can use the pure HTML. You can use the mobile interface. You can force your way into that. And then that's really crazy fast. If non-optimal in a lot of ways.
Do you do that just by changing the user agent? Is that all you have to do?
Well, you can do it that way, but it's like a question mark. I'm sure Gina knows this.
Oh, there's a command like a URL that you use.
Page. Well, yeah, it's a URL that changes the UI.
Oh, okay.
Much like you can change it to the HTML or shut off chat or whatever. And
yeah, that's what I do. I've had chat shut off for years just because I feel like, when I'm processing my inbox, when I'm dealing with email, I don't want to deal with chats as well. I'm just, I use kind of a separate IM client for that. Maybe I'm purist. I like Gmail fast. I use a couple of Grease Monkey scripts that hide, a couple of, stuff that I don't need, they send invites to your friends, chat, spam. And
but at the same time, I turned on the themes. With the cute.
I love the themes.
Yeah, themes.
Intellectually, I know it probably slows it down just a modicum. But
see, I get the mountain theme. You know why I turned off chat? Because every time I showed my screen on the show, somebody would say, "Hey, you're hot," or something like that. It pops up on there. You have no privacy. So I turned off the chat. Actually, no, it looks like it's on right now.
Yeah, I mean, a couple weeks ago, they launched the Gmail redesign, and it's got tasks, the task link, right at the top there, above the compose mail link. And tasks at this point, while it makes me happy that, I felt like, oh, this is a little bit more of a commitment to the task product. First of all, when you click it, it's just kind of a small little window overlay that shows up in the bottom right-hand corner. And it's not the most mature Google product. It's actually, the interface is great, and I like it. Yeah. It's kind of weak. It seems strange that tasks showed up so high, in the top left corner from user interface perspective. I was like, this is strange. And then I just felt like, oh God, I hope that Gmail is not going to become just the dashboard for everything Google, because, Google just wants to put their product in there and see, because, they know it'll get a ton of users instantly.
What did you guys think of the new compose button up there?
I like that because I never could figure out how the hell to start a message. I'm sure it's built into Gina's. Probably you just use you type a key. Yeah, but see, it's not in my DNA because I don't use it all the time. So the fact that you've got a nice big button right there, that's easy for me. Okay. By the way, Nick has just sent me a note that he has a phone call. So I'm thinking I could maybe call him. So how would I do that from Gmail? How do I call somebody?
So you've got to have chat on.
If it's available to you, it'll be right underneath the chat thing.
Oh, I see.
They call phone.
So it apparently is not, because I'm looking at my chat window and I don't see anything there.
Yeah, I don't have it either. Leo, little compose tip: if you hit Shift, if you hold down the Shift key and click Compose, it pops the little window.
Little Compose. Pop up a window.
Pops pops a separate window.
Yeah, Shift works for almost everything too. Well, everything you think it would.
That's nice.
Oh, really?
We just decided to move to Google Apps Premiere at TWiT. So we're going to use Gmail for our twit.tv corporate mail. And
how's that working for you?
Well, I don't know yet. I can't figure the damn thing out. It's a little beyond me. But no, we had it all forwarding to my IMAP server. So now I have to. I don't know what I'm going to do. But it's nice because we always use Google Docs here. We always use for sharing stuff. We use it like crazy, and almost everybody here uses Gmail. So, but Gmail for me was always like a second address. I've always had this older address that I use. So.
The Google Apps users are a little bit second-class citizens. Google Apps users don't always get the new. But the buzz isn't there yet. This new phone calling doesn't roll out to Google Apps users yet. So you have to just be prepared to kind of have to wait a little bit to get the new Gmail.
Remember, with the apps for your domain come certain service level guarantees that we have to be ready for for the business customers.
Ah.
You know, so I mean, because a lot of people pay for that, right?
Right.
So
yeah, we're paying $50 a seat a year, which is not bad.
Which is, you know, it's money.
But it's money.
You know, and in return, and if we screw up our SLAs, we actually we'll give you free days and free weeks or whatever. And it's you know, we're pretty serious about it. I mean, it's not that we're not serious about Gmail, right? But in some ways, Gmail, we have a little bit more flexibility there if we screw up.
I wish I could remember my
Interesting. So that's the main cause for a little bit of the delays for apps users.
And also some things businesses don't want, you know?
Right.
So, you know.
Yeah, they probably don't want employees buzzing all the time. Although I would imagine some businesses would use. Is there enterprise buzz?
Fantastic in the for the inside the company. It's just fantastic.
So we could have like a TWiT private buzz, or do you have to run a server to do that? How does that work? I guess
no. I mean, they'll just turn it on for the enterprise customers when we're sure we can meet all the service level guarantees.
Yeah,
then you can turn it on as an admin. In your admin console. But yeah, because we've been testing internally for some time before we deployed it out into the public, and we're just enamored with it internally. Although it can be a bit of a time waster, I have to admit. But you know,
I think I'm not a fan of IM. Like Gina, I turn it off because it's an intrusive thing. But a buzz would be kind of a better. It's like a static IM or like a. I think that'd be perfect.
It's almost like a thing where you have a message and you're sending it electronically to many people.
Oh, like email, you mean? But it's more.
It's different. It's like a bulletin board system. It's like an old style bulletin board system.
Yeah,
you know?
That's right.
So it's cool.
Well, I'm happy, and I'll let you know how it goes with the Google Docs because the Google Apps.
I hope it goes well.
Yeah, I think it's going to go well. I think one thing that really helped was the ability to sign into multiple accounts on Google.
Yes,
that's hugely helpful.
Yeah, because now I can sign into both.
That's not done for all the apps yet, but it's getting there. So
big improvement. So we're all in agreement that it makes perfect sense for Google to let you make phone calls from Gmail. Okay, I'm happy about that.
Neil tweeted something like, "Great, they're going to couple the misery of a full inbox with the
voicemail box.
fact of having to deal with a phone ringing, like phone calls and email overload. Woohoo!
Let's go, team."
I have to admit that in some ways my little tantrum was not just about social media, but just about overload in general. It's like everybody's talking at me. I can't hear a word they're saying, and it was just too much stuff.
It's time for an unsubscribe party, Leo.
I did that, and you know what I've done?
What I did for a while? I was unsubscribing from like a person I was following for every X followers I was getting on Twitter.
Oh, that's a good idea.
No, it was a terrible idea.
Didn't work?
No, it didn't make any sense. And I'm like, really? Is this why I'm going to unsubscribe to somebody? You know,
I really
because
like
the reality is even following 330 people, I can't keep up.
Right.
I like the 150 rule. Paul Adams' presentation about social networks said that basically, you really can't know more than 150 people. I think 150 people is probably a good rule of thumb, a good guideline.
Yeah.
Did you saw the comic about me, Joy of Tech comic about? Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
It's funny.
I couldn't believe that Joy of Tech was still running. They've been around forever.
Oh, not just Zach and Snaggy, your old friends. I've had it. This social media is just narcissistic crap. Everything I posted for years has been an immense waste of time. I'm quitting, and I bet no one will even notice. Poof, who are you? I'm Clarence, an angel. Wow, are you going to show me how dark and dreary the net would be without my comments and tweets? That social media is not a shallow cesspool devoid of meaning, and that I do make a difference? And when I change my mind and start microblogging again, you'll get your wings? No, I'm here to find out why you're not following me on Twitter. I think that said it all right there.
Colbert had a pretty great social media rant this week. I linked it in the friend feed. It was actually more about privacy than overload, but it was pretty funny. He quoted Schmidt actually that quote about how people will have
fantastic
to change their name.
Yeah, boy, you must be so proud. When Eric walks down the hall, the people go, "Right on, Eric."
So I try to keep it philosophical with Eric. I mean, also because he's like the super boss. But I try to think, what if I was this high profile with him? I mean, I think of some of the things I say. Yeah, people would be like, "That guy Chris is crazy."
Oh yeah, No, that's really true. You wouldn't. Yeah, exactly. everybody's watching your every word. It's almost hard to. There's no.
Yeah,
it's a
like
no
that
win.
first one. It was like, I don't know, like 6 months ago. He was talking about the Patriot Act, and he said something along the lines of, if you're the kind of person who worries about the Patriot Act, you should watch what you say and you should watch what you do.
Right.
And everyone's like, watch what you say and watch what you do. And it's like,
Right.
well, no, if you're, well,
Never mind. Forget I said anything.
and yeah. So, and it's like, and then I guess the thing recently was the he sort of, and I believe whimsically said that people should be able to change their name or whatever as they get older to sort of leave their old life behind.
I think that's
online,
true.
I
think kids seniors in high school are doing that.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Seriously?
my daughter told me this. She said, "Yeah, what we do is we change our Facebook account to be something."
Oh yeah, no, people delete their Facebook accounts. They'll,
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this. Like a couple of years ago, is they would graduate from MySpace into Facebook,
Right.
For college or whatever, and now people are like, and then they go from Facebook to nothing, I guess.
Right.
But,
Well, I'm back
LinkedIn.
on Facebook, and I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. I'm shamed. I'm glad Jeff's
why
not here.
are you ashamed?
I can't believe you're back on Facebook, Leo. After all that, I want to hear more.
I have a
about
good
that.
rationalization. And gird your loins, Mr. DiBona,
Okay.
because I want to talk. The real reason we got you on, it's a little bit old news now, but I would like to hear your take on it, is Google Verizon. And
Yes.
when we had that conversation, you actually texted me or tweeted or something and said, "Hey, I'd like to come on." We were in the middle of the show, so we couldn't get you on. So that's why you're
Well,
ostensibly
honestly, it
why
was
you
probably good that I didn't come on because by the time I had tweeted that, I'd actually finally gotten the story and I finally gotten the information. But I was still kind of
hang on.
to stop.
Good. We'll give you a chance to lose your job.
Yes,
Right,
that'd be great.
right after this word from Carbonite.com. You might want to know about this, Chris. You could back up all your data before you lose your job, actually. Probably a good idea.
That would be very handy.
Carbonite is a great solution. I'm a big Carbonite fan. In fact, when we sent Abby to college, we put Carbonite on the laptop because inevitably either the laptop gets stolen, the hard drive dies, probably the most likely she accidentally deletes a paper. It happened to my wife, which she just right before her master's thesis was due, she accidentally, first time she'd ever used a computer, this was some years ago, the file somehow got dragged to the trash can and lost forever. She had to rewrite the whole thing. That's not going to happen to Abby because I'm using Carbonite.com. Mac or PC, you could try it right now for 15 days. If you go to Carbonite.com and use the offer code TWIG, you don't need a credit card, no obligation. The software goes on your computer, Mac or PC, and whenever you're online, whenever your system's not doing anything else, it'll be backing up encrypted using 128-bit SSL AES 256 if you want to add further encryption for absolute privacy. Now, here's the beauty part. Actually, there's several. One, it's automatic. You don't have to think about it. Two, it's backing it up to the internet, so even if the worst happens, your backups are always safe. Three, unlimited backup for less than $55 a year. That means every personal file on your internal drive, on your laptop, or on your desktop is safe. You don't pay tiered prices. It's just one flat fee, so you don't have to worry about how much you're backing up. And finally, you don't have to have your computer to get your data back. To me, the most important thing about a backup is you shouldn't have to install special software or do some special voodoo to get that backup up. And with Carbonite, there's a free iPhone app, a free BlackBerry app, or you just log on to your Carbonite account from any computer, and there's your data. There's your paper. So if Abby loses her laptop, she's in the middle of a thesis, she goes to the library, logs onto the account, there's her file, complete, intact, backed up. This is how backup ought to be. It's a no-brainer. Carbonite.com. Try it free right now at Carbonite.com. Offer code TWIG. And if after 15 days you like it, you're satisfied, and I always encourage you to try before you buy, you'll get 2 months free if you use the offer code or the coupon code TWIG when you sign up, TWIG. Carbonite.com. You got to back it up to get it back. Do it right with Carbonite. So, Chris, this was a few weeks ago. The Google, and everybody knows I don't need to rehash this, but Google and Verizon jointly made a proposal in effect to Congress saying we think there ought to be net neutrality for landline for existing internet, but when it comes to mobile, maybe they ought to be able to do whatever they want because it's a nascent technology. There's lots of technical issues.
Yeah. We articulated a hands-off sort of thing.
Hands-off means, do what you want. And a couple of days later, there was a Google blog post that said, look, we understand it's not ideal. We felt it's the best we could get.
Yeah, and I believe that's true what they wrote. And I don't know if in the blog post, I'm pretty sure they did where they talked about the rules around the 700 megahertz band for LTE. When we were bidding for that, we were pretty adamant about, listen, we don't mind losing, but if we lose, we have to lose to people who have to confirm
Keep it open.
that they're going to support network neutrality rules, right? And so I think we sort of passed on it. We said, you know what, we can get a deal for this proposal done. For the wireline stuff, which is very important. I mean, and it's not like Verizon doesn't have a horse in that race. I mean, they own.
Oh, absolutely.
I think they own 51% of the FiOS stuff.
Right.
That's under the Verizon name in like Florida and a lot of the country. So I mean, they have a horse. They have skin in that game, right? So it's sort of not. It's not just a sop for some wireless company to say, oh yeah, for our wireline stuff that we have none of, we're cool with it. So I think that we wanted that, and I think that we said, listen, Verizon right now probably has the best network in the United States for data. If you're not like an international traveler, it's pretty much the ideal one for you. And if you couple that with the rules around 700 megahertz, it's not really the end of the world if we just have a hands-off policy and say let the market decide, right? And in return, by saying that, we were able to get this pretty nice promise around wireline. I think that was a compromise a lot of people didn't like, though.
Now, you're not speaking for Google, I take it.
Well, I mean, I am and I'm not, right? I mean, you wouldn't have me on if I wasn't working at Google. I mean, you might.
Of course we would, Chris.
But I'm actually.
But you are working for Google, and you are you're a fairly high-level manager at Google. So
yeah,
and I don't want to put you in a position.
I don't think it's fair to couple, Google for me. I mean, Google pays my bills. They pay my rent. They pay my salary. I mean, I obviously.
But I also know you as a strong. Right. I know you as a strong advocate of open source. That's your job. I know you as a strong advocate of net neutrality.
Yep.
You said you kind of hinted you weren't real thrilled at first when you read about it.
I wasn't very thrilled at first. So, and I wish the wireless stuff had been a bit stronger on the net neutrality side, but I really like the wireline stuff. So, and there was another thing about this that a lot of people didn't notice is we've sort of changed slightly where we said, listen, we feel that network neutrality is not about opening the pipe to all protocols at the same level of priority. We said that, for instance, suppose you have a video product like your Hulu or your YouTube or something. We felt that it would be unfair for one to be prioritized over another within the protocol space. But at the same time, some protocols, like voice, for instance, need priority over less important protocols, right? So email, for instance, SMTP, it's stored forward. It doesn't need, sub-millisecond quality of service, right? It can be a little delayed. So we've tried to articulate that our net neutrality takes that into account. Our position on net neutrality takes that into account. And I think that was something that got lost in the mix, too. But I'm going off on a tangent in a bit, though. So.
What about people who say there's in effect a triple-tiered internet now created? The one landline internet that's free and open, then the second kind of pay-per-view internet where certain technologies over mobile, like Verizon's Vcast, you have to pay for, and then finally this kind of third internet where the guy anything goes. If you decide I don't like Skype, you just say, well, you can't use Skype.
Well, it's funny because I've had machines in colos for some time, and it becomes very, very clear that there's already a lot of different kinds of priority on the internet, right?
Interesting.
Unless you're an extremely large provider and everyone basically has to peer with you so that traffic can flow, there's really no such thing as neutrality of protocol. If I'm going to put a fine point on it. So, because people are always going to prioritize, for instance, voice traffic over, BitTorrent. They're always going to, prioritize, YouTube and web traffic over, I don't know, pick your favorite other protocols. Even DNS is probably lower priority than a lot of the voice stuff out there.
Right.
So it's like, depending on which port you're using and what protocol you're using, it can change. And then you have things like Vcast, which are a little unusual, right? Because they're saying, listen, you're basically, by being on this network, you're going to be able to get this Vcast stuff. And I don't even know how Vcast is sent off. Is it a multicast? Is it a broadcast?
I don't know either. It may not even be using the internet. Because once you start
interacting with the spectrum, right, which is much more restricted from a bandwidth perspective. It's not like wireline where you can just buy more and lay it down, as if that's easy to dig a ditch across the country. But it's one of those things where, some of the luxuries you get used to plugging in a wire in the back of your machine go away, because all kinds of things affect it, whether it's the shape of the LAN, the frequency you're using, if you have really thick drywall, or maybe you have a Latin blaster. I mean, and so you have all these really weird questions.
You can't blame your wall for lack of net neutrality.
No. But I'm saying we're mixing a lot of things together when we talk about network neutrality, and especially network neutrality in wireless.
But you know what people are talking about. What they're saying is we don't
want us to plant a flag on wireless.
You did, but that's the thing. Google did.
You used to.
For years, in every form, including this Spectrum auction, fought the good fight. And I think a lot of people, Jeff Jarvis, myself, Gina included, felt a little let down that Google, it looked like, was waving the flag, the white flag of surrender.
Well, I think surrender is a strong word. but no,
so did Emperor Hirohito, but it didn't help.
Well, we're not Czechoslovakia. Well, we're not France or whatever it was. I don't know. Whatever your horrible.
So you think so? Okay, but it's a terrible analogy. But you're saying that the fight's not over, and this is a point that is made, I think, in several places by Google, which is this is a temporary solution.
Yes, I would like to think that it's not. It doesn't have to be a fight with Verizon. So that's what I would like to think. Right. I would like to think that what'll happen is maybe they'll see what goes on in wireline and say, you know what, if we adopt similar rules on wireless, I think we'll be well served. And I think that sometimes Google will go down the road with someone to help them. That sounds paternal. That we'll try to see if things work out like that. And,
so if
we're taking the hit for it,
you are.
Because people are going to say, well, Verizon's never going to be good, and so there's no point in doing this. But I think it's okay. Verizon's, the other side of this, I should point out, Verizon's been a very, very good partner to Google. I mean, they ship a lot of Androids.
That was the speculation, is that maybe Google was paying more attention to its pocketbook than its principles.
Well, I think it's another way of thinking about this is that we're also giving our friends a chance. So we have a big pocketbook. It's not really. I think about
the term "our friends" is what people are a little upset about.
Well, here's the thing. It's like they say that, but if you look at the customer service reviews of Verizon, they're like the highest in the among the telcos.
I'm a Verizon customer.
It's like saying they're the most popular. Telco may not be
the most popular kind of heart attack to have. Yeah,
but I mean, it says something. God. Anyway.
It sounds like you're saying politics is the art of compromise, and
it is.
And it's always very frustrating for the idealist, and I will include myself. I know Gina and Jeff feel that way too. We're idealists to acknowledge and admit.
And I think that's important. I think that you shouldn't have to make excuses for your idealism. So you shouldn't. You should expect more from us. You shouldn't expect less. You should, and this is why I was personally probably pretty upset a couple weeks ago. But compromise is going to make idealism feel pretty bad, or idealism makes compromise feel pretty bad. And we've always been a company that's tried to hang on to our idealism. So yeah, I get that. I get the disappointment. And I don't think it's wrong to be disappointed sometimes. And what I hope is that we're proven to be right. And if we're wrong, we just admit it and move on and fix it. Like, in some ways, I feel that this is what happened with China. See, I'm going to touch all the things, and if I'm not working here tomorrow, you know why. But it's like, sometimes our compromises work out, and sometimes they don't. So
China was an example where it seemed like from the outside there was an internal rift at Google, that there was a group that wanted to be in China and maybe compromise ideals a little bit because it was important to be in China, and there was a group that said no, we should never compromise. And the names that got associated with the former were, of course, Eric Schmidt, and the latter were Larry Page. But let's not say names. But
it's all pretty complicated.
It's complicated. Is there? Would you say within Google itself, as you walk down the halls, that this discussion is also ongoing? That there's.
So I would actually personalize it, because China was an example of again, I know people in China, and they would tell me, listen, when it came time to search the web, and not the Chinese web, but like the web at large, Google was the place they would go, and it's how they would find things out. It's how they would learn, especially computer scientists I'd talk to, which is mostly who I talk to, and it's like, they really appreciated that they could do that. And that made the compromise, which at the time, was the weird pseudo censorship regime, right? It made it be kind of okay. It's like, listen, Google's not a government. Google isn't. We're not presidents of the internet, as much as people seem to think
No,
we are.
I am actually.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah.
And
duly elected on Twitter.
duly elected.
Yeah.
It's true. King of the internet.
No, not just president. Actually, I think my term is run. I don't know. And then,
Your Majesty.
Yeah, Emperor would be good.
So I was of two minds. It's like, on one side, it's like, we should give them, the same results we give everybody else. But, and then you get on this thing where it's like, I work for Google, so I'm going to make mental compromises that maybe I wouldn't make if I weren't here. Or am I being intellectually true to myself? And it's very, very hard to know sometimes. So I was of many minds on the China thing. I'm pretty happy with where we are right now with the Hong Kong solution, as it were. I think it's a good one for us. I think it's a little more true to our nature. So good. But,
and that might be an example of how this stuff can work.
I didn't quit Google when we did the China thing, and it wasn't a financial decision, really. Right. By that time. So it's like, I obviously am okay with this. And in some ways, I have to personalize it because, I can't speak for every single human being at Google, much less Larry, Sergey, and Eric, right? Because that would be ill-advised. So.
Well, I really appreciate your frankness, Chris, and it's engineers like Chris who have this conscience, and you can tell these conversations happen at Google, and that these sort of the self-examination goes on. I don't think that the evil conversation is just a story. I think this really goes on, and so I really appreciate you being so frank, and it's good to know that you had second thoughts, and of course they're your employers, and that is an important fact, but I do appreciate your.
Yeah, at the same time, I got to tell you, I've got this loyalty thing where it's like, what, Google's been really good to me. So sometimes when I get upset about some decision or some policy, I say to myself, what? One, I don't have to like everything. But two, these people have been very good to me. Why should I assume that I'm right about this? And shouldn't I give them a second chance, right? So I've got that weird loyalty thing going on, and so I don't know that I'm always the best person to speak about this to an idealist audience, right? Who are going to say, listen, you're just bought and sold by Google. And it's like, no, I'm actually loyal to Google, which is an unfashionable thing to be nowadays, to be loyal to a company. But I feel that Google's been very, very loyal to me and very good to me. So I'm very emotional about it. So it's, I really love working at Google, and I don't want to work at places that don't have idealism inherent in the system, as it were, and that's why I stay here, and it's why I want to come onto Twig and talk about listen, it's like, when I saw the Verizon thing at first, I was like, wow, are we abandoning this thing that frankly we were the only ones fighting for for like 5 years, are we abandoning it? And I was pissed off, and I thought, well, wait a second, let's just stop for a second. One, there's no point in being pissed off, but secondly, it's like, are we really going to throw away 5 years of work? And if we are changing our minds, how are we changing it? Why are we changing it? And if it doesn't work out, are we going to be the same company I think we are and say, well, it didn't work out, let's push this other direction later? And that's why I sort of see it as being a compromise, and one that I think that is what I hope will turn out to be good for the internet, for you guys, for Google, for me. So there you go.
Thank you, Chris. I echo Gina's remarks. It's good to, and you said the word engineer, Gina, and that's what I love engineers, because you know what, engineers are very binary.
I did a little bit of coding recently, but I haven't been doing a lot of coding lately.
You got the engineering in your brain, though.
Yeah, I think you've earned the title, Chris. Yeah. I think you're there.
Now,
that's because of the soda, right?
Having said
there
that,
you go.
Having said that, I do notice this article about Tom Talk. Tom Talk, who is a Verizon spokesman.
Really? The Verizon spokesman's name is Tom
Talk? Yeah, T-A-U-K. He might be Talkie, but I think he should call himself Talk.
Well, I'm Chris Search. How are you?
The wireless rules, says Mr. Talk, caused a bit of controversy. Of course, we indicated that transparency should apply to wireless, but we acknowledged wireless is different for a variety of reasons. He quotes physics. And that's true. There are some differences. He said, really, the future in wireless is with managed services. He basically said there's no such... The wireless internet is not the internet. It's just a combination of managed services. So that's why I think in the long run, I hope you will keep watching Verizon closely.
Well, I mean, it's funny. So if I were to put... What does managed service mean? Because voice isn't TCP/IP on these phones, right? Is it? I mean,
no.
And if it is, you
but
want
it might
to be on a
someday
sideline because you don't want it to be slowed down by your downloading of some, some mail on the side. When you're doing a conversation, obviously. So it's like, what does that mean? So it's a question of, do we all mean the same things when we talk about this stuff? And we're all using different vocabulary. And I have to tell you, telcos have their whole other vocabulary for everything. Words you think mean one thing really mean something else, and they have for 40 years. So.
Good article. I recommend in the Law and Disorder column on Ars Technica today, a good article about.
I like Ars Technica a lot. That's great.
It's getting better and better. It's become almost the journal of record for the tech industry, if you ask me.
Yeah. Well, they seem to know
They got good people. Yeah, really good people. So a couple of actually, as long as we got Chris on, maybe we should ask about Android. One of the things that
I love Android.
Oh, well, who doesn't? Everybody here loves Android. I'm loving it.
Yay, open source.
Yay, open. But that's okay. That's why I want to bring this up, because Android is open source, Open Handset Alliance, and in a way that's caused Google to lose some control, and you have this really nasty situation where companies, we won't name names, Motorola, HTC, Samsung, are just, kind of beating up on Android, putting weird crap on it and so forth, and making it not a great experience. And this must be a little frustrating for Google. I know that's why you did the Nexus 1.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, apps run on them. All the ones you mentioned have phones that are coming out that are 2.1 and 2.2. And so
I'm using Droid X, waiting for 2.2, waiting.
Yeah, which is great.
And I understand Motorola is suing people who put out a early ROM or for.
Oh, really?
Well, they were mad because the 2.2 ROM leaked.
Huh? That's not good.
Not good.
Yeah, we could, obviously I have no idea what's going on there.
No, so don't say anything. Just
I gotta say Motorola's been really good about pushing out the updates though.
I can't wait. And Droid, of course, and Droid 2 are both 2.2 now. So.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
what do you use, Chris? You're still on the G1?
Yeah, I've got a Nexus 1 over here in my bag. So,
every time I pick up my Nexus 1, I say, "Hey, little buddy, you're still one of the best. It's gonna be a classic. Like considered, you'll look back on it and say this was one of the great phones of all time."
It's the developer phone, right? It's the engineer phone. It's the pure Google experience phone.
But not just for developers. It's pure for everybody. And while I'm using a Droid X because I like the big screen.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
I got to say, every time I pick up the Nexus 1, I'm thinking, I really should go back to this because this is elegant.
Well, I do a fair amount of international travel, so a Verizon phone kind of doesn't work out for me.
Yeah.
My sister has the Droid, as does my brother-in-law and my father, and a lot of people. So it's they're good phones. Where were we going with this?
I was just talking about is it a little source of frustration for the open source folks that this and I guess this is the duality of open source is that you do allow it does make it possible for people to change it.
Yes.
What is a GPL though? I mean, can you just use Android? Is it Apache? What is it?
If I were to put a picture of Android for you, at the bottom is the kernel, and that's under the GPL, which requires resharing of the code that you release.
Got it.
And then on top of that is this huge Androidness, which is mostly Apache and BSD and a little bit of LGPL.
So
GPL.
So Dalvik and all this stuff above it are
all Apache. It says you can have this, do what you want with it, and ship it, and we can't tell you no. Right?
And you don't have to release your code back out of the wild either.
Nope. You don't. You just have to acknowledge that you got some of it from us.
That's the difference between GPL and Apache.
Well, it is, but the funny thing about the GPL is that in the context of phones, if you use the GPL Linux kernel, right, it's actually very, very easy to share that software, and it hardly impacts you at all from a change standpoint. You can still change the heck out of it, and then you just have to release your software along with it.
Right.
So, because what you're really expressing frustration with, maybe, if it's frustration's even the word, is that some Androids don't look like all Androids, right?
Right.
Or some Androids, they add on the Sense layer, the Sense UI layer, or they have something else in there.
Or companies like Verizon end up locking down what was essentially an open handset.
Yeah, or I guess it's I don't remember which carrier it was, but it was basically you pay an extra $25 for tethering,
right?
Or
that's Verizon.
So that's Verizon, yes. So they put a little bit in there and they turn it on and off, And as a customer, you say, well, is that something I'm okay with? And people have to make that decision. Other people, they go out and they buy PDA net. Other people, some phones are more locked down than others. Some phones are not updated like others either. That's the other frustrating. That's probably the most frustrating thing for me. Not really if somebody has a different UI, or even if they charge extra for tethering, which from a bandwidth allocation perspective might be fair, depending on your perspective.
Actually, I don't have a problem with them charging for tethering. You're using their bandwidth.
It bugs me way more when somebody ships 1.6. Okay, right. That's what really bugs me, because we're finally clearing all the 1.6s out of the pipeline.
I know.
And we've got some, and 2.1 is, it's as easy to ship 2.1 as it is to ship 1.6.
Right.
So
and
it just baffles.
I just wish they get two out. And now Gingerbread on the road, and the roadmap has now gone to H.
Yes, honeycomb.
That's confirmed. Yay!
Oh, okay. Oh, it is. Sorry, guys.
I think Chris just confirmed it.
Or some other thing that starts with H.
Yeah, something.
So cruller is an H. A cruller.
It looked like Gingerbread was really aimed at a tablet, a larger form factor.
I have to tell you, you know what I wanted to call Froyo? Because we were batting around names. I wanted to call it Frangipan, but nobody had heard of it before.
That would have been great.
Like, it's great. And they're like, nobody can spell it. And I'm like, yeah, but it's really tasty. And they're like,
well,
what is it?
So
I'm like, well, it's like an almond paste
it's delicious.
croissant. And they're like, just get out of the office.
You should have taken everybody to Paris, and you could have, and then they would have.
Yes, on my special teleporting disc.
I love these stories. The stories behind the names. I
didn't know Chris was in the room when this all happened.
I love that.
No, I wasn't. There's not like a secret room that I get to go to. It's just whenever I see those guys, like, you should call it Frangipan. And they're like, Chris, we're trying to eat here, man.
Oh, no Frangipan. Go away. So, but no, Gingerbread, honeycomb. What will be? Do we know anything about honeycomb?
I have no idea. And if I did, I'd probably have already said too much if I tell you the name.
No, I said it. Maybe no. Did he say it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's rewind the tape.
The story that I linked to was that there was a rumor that was called honeycomb. That was pretty much all we know about it, right? I think the word is that it'll be a minor update.
All the names have to do with pastry or dessert or something.
So honeycomb's so obvious that of course that would be your guess.
No, it's not obvious. It's not obvious at all. How's it obvious? It's not like, hey, let's go out for some froyo and a honeycomb. It's
how about Hamantaschen? That would have been good.
Not Turkish. Is that Turkish?
Hot cross buns.
Hot cross buns. See, that would have been fun.
Man, I haven't had lunch yet, Leo. You're killing me.
The other problem is we have to buy the sort of the whole mini golf, things that we have in front of Building 44.
That's right.
We've got
a froyo,
the cupcake,
right? And they're big, right? They're
the froyo. No, well, they're really big, and it's from a company that makes them for mini golf places.
Really? Right? So those are really mini golf. Wow. So
sort of.
Do they have honeycomb for mini golf?
I have no idea.
I can tell you one thing.
They're very creative people.
They sure don't have frangipan.
I think that's where I would have broken down eventually. They'd been like, Frangipan,
what does that look like?
A croissant. What are you crazy? We don't make croissants here. We could make you a windmill, Can we put some whipped cream on a windmill and call it a Frangipan?
Let's start a rumor, Gina, that Google is starting a mini golf course in front of Building 43, 42, whatever it is.
Excellent.
Let's a couple other stories, then we're going to get to our tool and tip of the week.
Tip of the week.
And if you want to do a number, Chris, we always do a number. Jeff does a number. If you want to go search for a number, please do. I don't know what your tool is, Gina. A lot of these links are tools.
Not giving my phone number. I don't.
No. A number would be like Google activates 200,000 handsets a day on Android. That kind of thing. Yeah. I like this one. We're getting ready for the social network, the Mark Zuckerberg Facebook movie, which by all accounts is a very good. I love
the trailer.
Yeah, the trailer's great. David Fincher, great.
I love the whole Kids Against the Establishment thing going on there.
Aaron Sorkin, a great writer.
Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake.
Is Sean Parker.
I'm a JT fan. Can't go wrong.
A great. I don't know. And singer. I don't know.
And I like the kid from Zombieland. Right.
He's great.
That the kid from Zombieland, right?
Yeah.
As Zuck.
As Zuck. He'll be good.
We should just call him Zuck. I don't even know the guy. Why would we call him Zuck? Mr. Zuckerberg.
Zuck. Our friend Zuck. Because he's 26. That's why we call him Zuck.
So I was 26 once. It was a while ago.
So apparently, the next movie going to be Siegfried and Roy. No, it's not going to be Siegfried and Roy. It's going to be Sergey and Larry.
If Sergey and Larry had a white tiger, though, that would be really cool.
It'll be based on Ken Auletta's book, Googled. And I'm sure that Jeff is pretty mortified that it's not based on what would Google do. It'll be the story of Sergey and Larry and the rise of Google. I think that'll be pretty good.
Sure. I guess. I don't know. It sounds so boring. It sounds like a documentary, really, to me.
The nice thing about Facebook is there's sex and drugs and rock and roll. I don't really see a whole lot of that with Larry and Sergey, but
yeah, we don't do any of that stuff here.
It's a bunch of engineers.
I feel like all these movies are about these total dorks, like in their dorm room, like trying to figure out.
They should just be typing the whole time.
Yeah, just typing the whole time.
If it were true to life, it would be.
Yeah.
Can you get me a Dr. Pepper?
Hey, I need a Diet Coke. Why isn't that micro kitchen closer? You know, it's.
I got a mug here. Pizza.
Funyuns. Yeah. I want Funyuns.
Oh, put Cheeto do all over my...
If you think about it, if Citizen Kane was just a guy sitting in an office yelling at his reporter.
That's true.
Good. I mean,
well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I don't know if you have this as a tool or not. We talked about it on Net at Night last night. The fact that you now have 30 seconds.
Yes, that was my tip this week. But it's also
okay.
Let's talk about
I won't say anything about it. It's a secret.
Okay.
I didn't give it away. I didn't give it away.
That.
I just said you now have 30 seconds. I
you
didn't
now
say
have 30 seconds.
For what? So you're not going to mention the fact that now you have the ocean and Google Earth on Android. That's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool. That's pretty
nice.
Neat update. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet. Have you?
I have.
My goodness.
Yeah. And now I presume they're going to add all the desktop features, which means the moon, the stars, and all that.
Oh, I
too.
hope so.
Yeah.
Well, we already have the Google Sky as an app you can.
Oh, that's right. Sky's already in there.
Sky's out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so let's get a confirmation out of Chris DiBona on this one.
Oh boy, I'm gonna get in trouble again.
Real-time search results that update as you type. TechCrunch says.
Oh yeah, I saw this. We always test stuff out online.
Doesn't mean it's going to happen.
A/B tests. Yeah. I mean, there's a time we replaced everything with pictures of ponies. No, kidding.
Really?
No.
I've always liked Google Suggest. I mean, that's really cool, and it's also a fun game to play just to see, when you type my name, what do you get? But
Leo is really good looking.
Yeah, you don't get that. No.
If everyone searches for it, maybe we can make it happen.
Leo, is it based on what people are searching for?
I honestly don't know. I think it must be a mix of things, though, because it wouldn't just use trends data. I mean, it might, but.
So now they're going to update the search page as you type. Leo DiCaprio, Leo Laporte, iPad launch, Facebook, Twitter, KGO, Tech Guy quits Facebook.
I feel like every episode of Twig devolves into one of us Googling ourselves.
You should do Leo Laporte space is space and see what happens.
Yeah.
Dare I?
Yes, you dare. Oh, you are a man of...
Is a douche and an idiot. So there you go.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
man.
not cool.
That's not nice. Those are the two results.
You're neither of those things.
Now, why would somebody search for Leo Laporte is a douche? I don't think you need to search for it if you were confident about it.
Well, obviously they're not.
They're looking for confirmation in their beliefs.
Well, people always do that, right?
So it could just be a test. It doesn't mean that they're going to have real-time search.
We test unusual things all the time.
Yeah.
So.
It's kind of wave-like. I feel like if they rolled this out, everyone would be like, this is too chaotic. Things are changing too fast on my screen, and I cannot grok it.
I do not understand.
I don't understand why the words keep changing.
Sit still, damn you.
I mean, seriously.
Do you remember when we ran the Pac-Man thing?
Yeah.
And there was all those tech support,
people called, why is Pac-Man in my Google? Is that what they were saying?
It's broken. Why is it making sounds? And it's like, I felt kind of bad, because it's like, it's like whenever you get trapped behind somebody who's really old driving, and it can be frustrating, but at the same time, I'm like, I would want somebody to be really patient if I was the old guy, or if it was they were behind.
Because we're all gonna be eventually, right?
And eventually, I'll be that old guy,
right?
And so I try to have a lot of sympathy for people, and so when I saw those Pac-Man transcripts, I kind of felt bad.
You mean people calling up saying, why is my computer making that sound?
Yeah, it never did this before. What is going on? People are like, what are you talking about?
Was it the fact that you have to press a button that says insert coin kind of a hint?
No, if you didn't do it, it would turn on by itself. So when we first pushed it out, it automatically started after a little while.
Oh.
Right? And so it started going, and people were freaking out. And they're calling up their tech support because they didn't know what their computer was doing. They thought they had a virus or something. And then it became And then of course all the mean people on the internet. There's so many mean people. They're like, oh, dumb users, and it's like, no, they're just,
they're
so
normal.
They're something unusual, and they want to either stop it or they don't know why it's going on. They're a little worried because their computers don't always perform so well, because
we geeks forget.
We forget
that there are normal people.
More sensitive.
We should. It's true.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I do that, and the huge paycheck. I continue to do the radio show.
The huge paycheck.
That and the huge paycheck. No, the reason I do the radio show is because it really does keep me in touch with normal people who call in and say things like that. And I forget. It's easy to forget if you don't constantly talk to normal users that our view
that
is
someone
skewed.
would react with anything other than delight at the sight of Pac-Man on their Google page. I mean,
exactly.
I think it was cool we did it, and I really like that. But yeah, I think it's okay to be a little sympathetic, when people get confused by computers, because we weren't born with keyboards in our. Well, I was, but most people were not born with keyboards in their hands.
Good on you, Chris DiBona. You're absolutely right.
True. It's a good point.
Ken Shepardson, our director of engineering.
I wouldn't not ship Pac-Man though. Let me make it very, very clear.
Oh no, you got to do it.
Gotta ship it.
Gotta ship.
Gotta ship it.
Just bear up under the brunt of calls.
Yes.
Google does not have a tech support number though, does it?
I think we do for enterprise apps for your domain customers.
Yeah, because you really wouldn't want to be answering calls. My search doesn't work.
Yeah, where were these calls coming in anyway, Chris?
No, these were to local ISPs.
Oh, I see. Okay, okay,
makes sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's who gets the calls.
Yeah,
Google will not take. All right, time to get our tech tool tip and number of the week. If Chris wants to come up with a number, he can. But let's start with our tech tip of the week with Gina Trapani.
I have a great number.
Oh, good.
It's very narcissistic.
I like it.
My tip this week is a Gmail tip. One of the Gmail Labs features, which I absolutely love and have been using for a long time, it's called Undo Send. So with it enabled, when you send an email, a little message appears across the top of your inbox. It says, "Do you want to undo this?" You can call an email back. It used to be that I think it gave you 5 seconds in order to make that quick decision.
Right.
Undo Send just got a configurable amount of time. So you can set it to up to 30 seconds. You have up to 30 seconds to pull back that email where you forgot the attachment or realized that you were just too drunk and that was just too embarrassing. So to turn it on, you have to have Undo Send enabled in the Gmail Lab section, which is what Leo's looking at right now.
Apparently, I have enabled everything, including Green Robot and all sorts of weird ass crap.
all the labs, a lot of Labs features are really good, but then you have to go into Gmail settings, and there'll be a new setting where you can set. I think it's a drop down of 5, 10, 20, 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. So once I've enabled it, I have to now go to these settings.
Yeah, and then go into settings, which is a little weird. I would have expected the setting to be where you enable it, but. So it's 2 different places, but turn it on, and the first time you undo sending a message, you will be very grateful. Yes, 5, 10, 20, or 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds to pull back that email.
And the reason it's not longer is because, of course, your mail doesn't go out for that period of time. So if you made it 20 minutes, people would start calling Chris DiBona saying, "Where'd my mail go? It's not going anywhere. It's stuck." And that's how come makes it only 30 seconds. Right?
Only 30 seconds.
Yeah, because otherwise they'd be calling their ISPs.
Yes.
My mail is constipated. It's taken 20 minutes. I don't understand it. Chris DiBona, what is your narcissistic number of the week?
Well, I have 2. So the number of additional Twitter followers that came from the live broadcast.
Oh, nice.
The fact that you even know what the delta is
well.
Kind of
I checked it, before we got on. It looks like I've gained about 40 followers.
Oh, we could do better than that.
I reload.
What is your Twitter handle?
It's CDiBona. Twitter/CDiBona.
All right. So we'll get a little more than that here. There he is, and I'm following you. So.
Oh, really?
Yep, I'm following you.
And he looks like Rasputin the Mad Monk, but don't let that disturb you.
No. If I looked like Rasputin, I'd be skinnier.
Chris, is this your Google headshot? It's a good shot.
It is absolutely a PR paid headshot. And my second one, as I was going to say, and I thought that it'd be really fun to hear from you two, from your main Gmail accounts, the answer to this. So if you click on All Mail, in the upper right-hand corner is the number of threads in your Gmail.
Ooh.
And it's a very interesting number, in my opinion.
So where do I go? So I'm in my mail.
Click on All Mail.
Okay. Not inbox. All Mail. Where is that somewhere?
All Mail. It's in your list of mail.
Way down under. Okay. All Mail. And now what am I looking for?
And then look to the upper right-hand corner. It'll say 1 to 50 of X. And what is X?
9,892. What's yours, Gina?
Well, and this is on your new one, right? This is your apps for your
No, this is my Gmail because I don't use it as my primary mail.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. What about you, Gina?
I'm 26,307.
And what are you, Chris?
Well, this is for my work email, not for my personal email. Okay. And it's 259,906.
Oh.
So this might be my primary work email for 4+ years.
Do you think it's more in your home or less?
Oh, I could find out. Hold on.
Yeah, I've got another 22,000 on my other account. So like 42,000 for me.
I thought, wow, almost 10,000.
And if you want to be really competitive, we could bring up our spam folders.
Oh, I can show you all spam.
They're for a 30-day moving average.
All right. Let's see. Spam, I have 859. I only have 859.
7,000.
I have 2034 in my Gmail.
7,000, Gina?
Yeah, I've got 7,800 in here. Yeah. What do you have, Chris?
Let's see. I have to go to it. So in my regular Gmail, I have 213,653 threads in my all mail. And then for spam, I have not many, actually. This is not very many. This is 2,076. But it's going through a primary filter first, so it's a weird number. Huh. So it's not so bad.
I feel I should have more spam.
Yeah, me too.
I'm feeling neglected by the spammers out there.
Don't say that.
Just like you.
Well, I have, inadvertently, if you've watched the video, been giving out my Gmail address. It's not like it's something you couldn't guess, but.
So I had the highest spam, but Chris had the highest number of threads.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
So you guys can fight it out.
We can fight it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's worse there. I think I'd rather have the spam because I don't want to have all those conversations that I actually have to deal with.
What is that number? What is that threads number? That means how many different conversations? Not merely emails, but conversations.
Conversations, yeah.
So it's all the emails with the same subject are collated into one thread.
Right.
So you have many more emails than 200,000.
Yeah, probably 1 million.
Wow.
But I haven't read all of them. There's just no way. Right?
See, I bought a lot of extra storage on Gmail. I think I have 200 gigs. Yeah, 207 gigs storage.
That's great.
Because for Picasa Web, the photo sharing. And but I'll never fill that up. I only have I have 4.6 gigs of email. How many gigs of email do you have, Chris, if you have that many threads?
On my work one, it's 15 and a half, and then in my home one, it's not that many.
Google probably gives you the 25 gigs that you get from Google Apps Premiere.
Yeah. I mean,
we get 25 gigs for Premiere.
Yeah, I have the same thing you have, 25.6 gigs. Yeah. So, yeah.
All right, and my tip of the week, and it's really kind of a multiple tip of the week, is how I think I'm going to plan my new flow with PubSub, Hubbub, and all of that of content. So it's going to start as I did today. I blogged that we were doing the show at leoville.com. So that's where my blog lives. And on leoville.com, if all goes well, there is a plugin for WordPress, which I have yet to install, PubSub Hubbub plugin, which will then pump it to Buzz. And then I use a program called Buzz Can Tweet, which is, people have sometimes complained is unreliable, but I have found it to be quite reliable in taking my buzzes and putting them on Twitter. I mean, the speed with which Buzz Can Tweet works depends a lot on, I think, Twitter and, how Twitter's responding. But it seems to do quite a good job. You sign in with your Twitter account using OAuth, and it has quite a bit of control over what goes to Twitter and how it goes to Twitter. You can even say, just certain hashtags go to Twitter. So that's kind of the publishing chain. And then my real question was, because Buzz has this great widget, and one of the reasons I buzz so much is because I have the widget on my Android phone, so I could, hit the widget, take a picture, or post a picture, or even just post a simple comment. And that's one of the things that I think I'm going to kind of mostly miss. I'm on my Android phone. Let me see. Gina, you're there. So let me switch my camera 5 down to this so you can see my Android phone. On my Android phone, I still have that Post to Buzz widget, which I highly recommend. But now I've found a open source WordPress blog posting application that's free from the folks at Automatic. And you can post directly from there. You can even add media, photos and videos. So I think while it took a few more clicks, I may be able to start everything. This is my goal, to start everything on the blog using and this WordPress app is available both on the Android phones and the iPhone and even the iPad. There's a very nice version on the iPad. If you're using WordPress.com, of course, it gives you lots more information. If you're a Squarespace user, there's an iPhone app too. So I would say most blogs probably have something like this. I am also using, and I really recommend, although it's no longer free, a commenting engine. There's two good ones. disqus.com I used for a long time. Discuss is how that's pronounced. Now I have to switch this back over. Discuss is a system that takes comments out in the social sphere and brings them back into your blog. But the one that I'm using right now is from JSKit. It's called JSKit Echo. It was, unfortunately, it was $1 a month, and now it is, unfortunately, $10 a month. So they've recently raised the price. But it's very easy to install, and I think it is really, really a powerful solution. The nice thing about Echo is the comments are in real time. They come in from social media. They get aggregated. You can reply. It's very powerful. And if you go to the comments section on leoville.com, a really good example was this Buzzkill post, which got a lot of engagement in the real world and got captured right back into the blog. Now, it's hosted, unfortunately, it's hosted by JSKit, so I'll have to somehow, some way to import it back in. Let me see if I can find the post. Yeah, there it is. Into my blog if I want to save them, but at least for the time being, they're safe. And I use services like Backupify. But look at this. What is the current count? I don't know how many comments there are on here.
And most of them from Twitter.
Yeah, 2,100 comments. Well, that's the point, is that this is a way to get the Twitter engagement back into the blog, respond there. Now, the responses don't automatically go back to Twitter, which is kind of not ideal. But at least there's a way to get this engagement back into the blog. Because what I'm trying to do is kind of get the best of both worlds, which is post on the blog where it's permanent and saved, but have engagement in other places. So cross-post into Twitter and Buzz and Facebook, and then capture the conversation back from those social media sites. So those are the tools that I'm using right now. And there goes Chris DiBona. I bored him to tears.
Now, how does this plugin know that the response on Twitter is to that particular tweet?
It only works if it sees the link.
Oh, if it sees the link. So the expanded link has to be to the permalink on the page.
I believe so.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I believe so. But most people do that. They do a reply to the original post. Mm-hmm. Let's get Chris is calling back here. There we go. So, now this is just a very preliminary set of ways to do this, and I would love to do is get some conversation going. Maybe I know what I'll do. I'll blog post about how I'm doing this and get some conversation coming back, because I'd love to see other ways to do it. Because the key for me is it has to be easy to get that original content out. It's one of the reasons I use Buzz and Twitter. It's one of the reasons you do, Gina. It's easy. You go blah, 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 and it's done.
Right.
So how do we get that kind of ease of publishing combined with permanence and engagement? That's my ultimate goal. Gina Trapani does her thing. She's still blogging. If you were in Pennsylvania now, you'd have to pay that $300 blogger fee.
It's so weird.
Isn't that weird? They want to charge people to blog as like a business. Smarterware.org, that's the place, because she's in enlightened San Diego. She doesn't have to.
Yes, I am.
She does not have to worry about that. And, of course, her, I don't know, should I plug the book?
No. It's okay. No, it's okay. We can plug the book. It's a history book. It's an homage to Google Wave, and
that's right. That's terrible.
Enjoy it at CompleteWaveGuide.com, because it'll be in the Computer History Museum someday.
That's right. There was this thing called Wave. It was the only manual ever written. And let's plug this new Fast Company thing you're doing. Can we plug that?
Oh, sure. That'd be great. Yeah. I'm doing a new video series on fastcompany.com. It will start airing in September. And Leo is making a guest appearance, which I'm very excited about. And I'll add the link once they start airing. It's a cool, kind of fun Q&A about
it's like having Kirk show up on TNG.
I don't know where I am. Good. That's going to be fun. Fastcompany.com.
Yep.
Look for that. Mr. Chris DiBona is always welcome here in the TWiT cottage. We just adore Chris, and he's currently doing this Google thing, but Who knows what'll happen tomorrow? Open source program manager at Google for open source. And don't forget that if you want to come to our Government 2.0 broadcast on Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Can you email me about that?
I'll send you all that information. Tim O'Reilly will be here, and a whole bunch of people will be talking about transparency and open government. You're invited too, Gina.
I don't know that I have the street card for that yet. I think that we're just really getting started in a lot of ways.
Well, it's neat that Google's doing it.
I don't want to be a big gas bag,
All right.
So.
Well, I'll mention it. Yeah. And follow him on Twitter, CDIBONA. Yeah. I'm a Genovese, a couple of Sicilians. What are you going to do? Let's go have pasta. We'll see you next time on This Week in Google.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Chris. Thank you.
Goodbye, Chinese people.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Gina.
Bye.
See you later.
Take care.
Did he say goodbye, Chinese people? I think he did.
Oh, I think he said chat room people.
Oh, okay. Bye.